Hey there guys, attempt number 2. I pushed the wrong button and so I have to start all over again. Interesting times. Dear goddess. Yes. I had to pause in my recording just now because I wanted to get out the cards that I pulled for me and my dad, which is something there have been developments, yes. Let me try to recapitulate what happened. A lot of stuff has been going on. I have been posting about the Amanita mushroom business quite a bit. I think that I'm kind of done on that chapter at this point. I may record a bit more if I get more events or more interesting, developments from that. So far, I've got my 2 little wax bottles that I can use. I've got an Amanita incense that I made. It looks like everything is, sort of, at the moment, that chapter has been just closed for a bit. Last Friday, today's Monday, 14 of October. Last Friday was a day with lots of telephone conversations in it, and also something that hasn't had enough attention. My husband's poetry book came out. Quite a number of positive responses from people. Also, people going off to buy the booklet quite immediately the same day, and generally happy vibes and excitement, and husband's excited, and of course we went to go out for dinner Friday evening, and all that was excellent. It was also very confusing to me because up until like 1 o'clock in the afternoon, everything was fine. I was chatting with people on the phone, and I'd sort of finished arranging my Amanita business, and all that was like in the can, and the videos that I wanted to make about that subject were done, and so on and so forth. And I was really, feeling energized, and this is a good time to go and phone my dad again, have another phone conversation with him, because the second time around, you have to see whether everything is still the same, or maybe more or less the same, whether what you remember from the first time around is actually true, and that kind of thing. It has been half a century almost between us. So for us to be interacting with each other, it turns out that it's quite a bit more emotional for both of us than we care to admit. It turns out that it's very visceral. There's a lot of, we're really very fond of each other. It's easy, but we express that very differently, both of us. We do express it. I hear him say things that show me that he cares. Only he doesn't like to go into the whole emotional travail, of course. And that's freedom for you. That's personal sovereignty. If I want for this to work, I have to let him be himself. And it turns out if I do that, then I have an hour-long, very interesting chat with him about all sorts of aspects of, for example, Jewish history, which was something that we went into on Friday. Things that he knows a lot about, that I know a bit about because I've been reading about the subject, about Jewish history. And he can actually tell me stuff, and there's stuff that's closer to him. So that's so valuable to me, to come into contact with that information from him, not from some dude in a book or on YouTube, but from this person himself. So that's something that's already, I really appreciate that. I really value whatever it is that he's saying, which is, I can, most of it is, he's enthusiastic about those things. He's interested and he wants to talk about these things. And he's 85 years old. So I'm thinking, just like with my foster family, with my foster mother, that I'm going to get to in a minute, I'm I want to let him talk, basically. I want to listen to him talk, and the value of that will come to me as I can pick it up. So it's really a very potent exercise in personal sovereignty. I don't kid you. So I've had help from tools and cards. I've got a mini crystal haul even to show you guys, which was actually kind of helpful. There's always also been, of course, quite an important change in my Shakti energy, with my heart area becoming kind of activated and all that. For more intel on that, go 1 week and a bit back in time on the channel. It's been very intense, and most of it I can actually sort of map out for myself. I can chart out, and I'm confident on this end that things are easy enough to, to dose, also to manage, to just not do everything at the same time. Maybe it looks like that, but it really, I tend to, do also things in the house and stuff, and bake cookies and stuff like that, because I find that very therapeutic, baking cookies. Oh sheesh, yes. And we went to the woods yesterday, as you saw. I have got a beautiful boletus harvest that makes me happy, like nothing else in the world. So all that to sort of counteract the intensity with my dad, the intensity with the amanitas, the intensity with the heart chakra business. So yeah, you need quite a bit of mushrooms to go to wiggle in between those two things, right? So another thing that's helped me is cards. Yesterday I did a really nice little spread for myself and my dad. He's not here. I'm only on the phone. I'm talking to him, and that's it. I will probably go and visit, because I figured out the bus lines, the, public transport way to get to him. It will probably take me an hour and a quarter or so to get there, but it should be workable. It's not like it's very far away. In a car, it takes you 20 minutes, 25. But you have to go like so and then like so for me to pick up another bus at another junction somewhere. So it'll be okay, and I might go visit, on my own without husband, sometime in November or so. I think that would be okay. The cards are my next really, I hope, interesting and helpful bit that I want to show you guys, because there's a couple of points that have been that have struck me using this spread. What I did was I used two tarot decks, the Marielle and the first edition of that I've got, and that I still think is just such a gorgeous deck for these types of, when I need to know exactly what is going on emotionally. Marielle is the only place to be for me. I don't use other tarot decks on that level of sincerity or vulnerability even. So what I did is I did a past, present, future set of 3 cards for myself with respect to my dad, followed by another 3 Marielle cards. Both of these are Marielle cards. Past, present, future for him with respect to me. And then I pulled 3 Cabalistico tarot cards to put in between. So the link between the past cards, the link between the present day cards, and the link between the future cards. Okay, so it's really a really concise, even illustration of the way our relationship, that has never been a relationship, that never got a chance to be anything else than just a biological fact, basically, hardly, that still carries a lot of weight for both of us, that's still very vulnerable, that's still very, very painful also for him, to map that out and to have that in a way that's just blown my mind, how beautiful these cards are. But there are also a couple of little buts and ifs attached to this law. So let me show you my cards, okay? My personal card, I think I will go through this in a timeline. So doing the past cards first. The card, how I got introduced in my dad's life, as what was I introduced in my dad's life, is the Strength card. So I'm going to go like this so you can see the card up close, like so. There's a lion there. I am a Leo. My dad's first name is Leo. There's a lot of Leo theme going on in our lives, much more than is comfortable. Some of it is just genealogical name giving. His mom was Leonarda, Leonie also, and so on and so forth. This is my cards in this spread, in this as it's turned out, are all majors. That tells me something. That by itself tells me something, that I have never really had a chance to be a 2 of cups to him, or even a 3 of swords, or even a 9 of swords, or even I am not ever a princess of wands or a knight of something or other. I am none of those things. I am major cards. So I sit there, which is something that reminds me also of how he used to draw and paint my mother back in the day. When I was like 4 years old or so, we lived in the north of the Netherlands in a very bland, grey, flat potato fields type of area. Very low on inhabitants, very few people around there. My mother used to live there when she was a kid, and she would have been happy there, and that's probably one of the reasons why they went back there, trying to get her out of her depression. But that wasn't helping because she was locked up with this weird stranger who didn't know how to get her to express herself, basically, in a nutshell. He didn't know how to get her to express herself, and he didn't try. What he did, he painted paintings of her, sometimes with or without her child, in an Italian Renaissance style, in oil paint. And all I saw as a kid of 4 years old was the beautiful colors, but they were at each other's throats, and she hated him and he hated her. So he never managed to see her as a person. He couldn't see her as a 4 or 5 of cups. He couldn't see her as part of a tale of a process, and she needed help. And he might have given none of that. And because he was turning from a sense of powerlessness, also turning violent, she wasn't going to manage to help him in whatever way either. So all that is 45 years ago. But the interesting bit now at this point, I think, is that in his mind, I am major arcana. I am images of a particular quality of some sort. I'm not changing, I am not moving, and this is my card, Strength card. The card of his position that he was in at the time is this one, the 10 of Swords in the Merry L, and all the 10s in the Merry L are like these riders, and I think this is gorgeous, it's beautiful. But just to compare, this is the 10 of Wands, like so. This is the 10 of Discs, with the goat on top of the horse. Looks rather funny, I still think it's a gorgeous card. The 10 of Cups, scariest one of them all. But this 10 of Swords tells me that where he's coming from. So in case I never had any real sympathy for him, I have now. Because I have to sort of step away from my own, from what he's projecting, expecting me to be, right? I have to realize this is his side of things. He's not me. He's not an extension of me. He's not a projection of me. He's none of the things that I might be entitled to be getting as a daughter in all the traditional ways. None of that is applying here. The card, okay? Let me just go on before I completely maroon us into some miserable tale here. The card between us in the Cabalistico is the Queen of Wands. And she has, there's a lot to be said about her, but she is in this Kabbalah version of things. You can actually see her realm is up there. The king's realm is at the top. The queen's realm is the split in the world between Chokmah and Bina. So going for the different approaches, coming and going, taking and giving, and so on and so forth. So that's more or less the position. And as a Queen of Wands, I suppose it depends really. The interaction between us at the time when I was a little kid was fine. I have never had any problems with him whatsoever. He's never hit me. He's never corrected me, which he might have done because he wasn't really a parent. My mother was scared of what he would do to me in the divorce, after the divorce, if he got custody of me. What would, that nothing would come of me. I would auto-destruct or something without the discipline that she intended to provide, because she felt that she was the only real parent in that situation. But so a lot of my intel and a lot of my approach to this whole thing is colored by my experience with my mother, of course, who had her opinions and her experiences with, and she's in here too. She is at the back of the cards. All the backs of the cards are her, you know. And I've had a bit of a hard time also during the weekend coming back to her position, because I'm triggered by all these vibrations and, you know, things is happening. Why am I triggered by the vibrations? Because my parents' birthdays are a 1.5 day apart in real life. 1934, April 20th and 22nd. So there's like this much difference. They're different ascendant and different moon. Otherwise, their horoscopes are the same. So energetically, this is a big, you know, riddle for me. And neither of them have any real qualities or aspects to their personality that I can work with. That is like, okay, so you do. The only thing that I recognize in my mum, there's two things that I recognize in my mum, and she's no longer here, okay, is her moon is in Leo, and I'm a Leo. That's been a big deal in my life. There have been ways and means by which she has shown me a certain level of being okay with yourself, a certain level of confidence, I suppose, a certain level of self-trust that she has communicated to me, that she has led the foundation for during my life with her. And she passed away when I was 28. So that is 24 years ago. Crazy. But it's still working. And the other thing is that I'm assuming, yes, that her ascendant was 20 and a bit degrees Taurus, because she was a Taurus, and it kind of makes sense astrologically if that was her ascendant. And I'm not sure about that definitively, because, you know, you just have to make it up as you go. It's what you get when you calculate what she said. And yeah, so, okay, between 20 and 25 degrees Taurus, let's say, which is the location where in my chart you find the North Node, which is one reason why I have followed her and believed her and tagged along with her all this time, and still respect her for who she was, even though she never managed to make her life really work, you know. All this, I do not share. My dad doesn't have any 21 or whatever degrees Taurus aspects. He does not have any Leo aspects except for the South Node being in Leo, but that's the same as my mum had. So problematic either way, but they do have a lot of things in common, especially their Mars, Uranus, Sun conjunction stellium of 3 planets. That's here is the influence again. It's coming back into my life, this influence of this enormously complicated type of person that's got this way of dealing with the world, or engaging, I should say, not dealing, engaging with the world that makes zero sense to me. Ambitious, driven, to a point, willing to self-sacrifice to get a point across, willing to break everything in ways that are completely uncomfortable to me, certainly. So, to the side with this, let's go to the cards of the present day. So, present day cards for me. Do you believe it? It is actually the sun. His card, beautiful, is the Five of Cups. This is often associated with a lot of grief and emotion. There's a lot of pouring out of water in this card. What I find interesting at this moment here is that the unicorn that's in the middle looks like an 8-legged unicorn, because there's not 2 horses there. So that would be Odin's horse, right? And he's got a symbol for Chiron on his belly right there. See? So him being an 8-legged unicorn, even, then that would be Sleipnir, Odin's horse, right? But the interesting bit to me at the moment is that we have 2 trees here. We have a pear tree and a fig tree. Can you see that? I have a fig tree in my garden that some of you have seen already. And it's kind of cool, I think, that for me to realize that he's got his own life and he's got his own tree. He does have his second wife, who looks like my mum quite a bit, at least to my eyes. And then here I am, coming out again, coming into the open, having this interaction with him, making an impression on him, whether he likes it or not. And we will just have to, he has to deal with this in his own way. The card linking us, between us, like this, is actually a king of pentacles. So the 3 cards in the Cabalistico in the middle, the relationship cards, are all court cards, which I thought was pretty interesting. So majors on my side, court cards, then 2 minors here, really appropriate ones, I think, considering from what I know. I think he's happy that I'm kind of, showing my face again in whatever form. For the future part of our interaction, or the relationship that we may or may not find that we have, here's the star card. And that also reminds me again of the function that it has for me to look at the charts and the black moons and all the rest of it in order to stay in a comfort zone. Because we did agree on that we both need to have this interaction or this conversation that we're having in a way that is comfortable for both of us. So we do not need to go into areas ever that are not working. And I think that's a really good idea. His card then, he's finally getting a major as well, is the moon. And I was really happy when I saw this, because I think it'll be good for all of us then. The star on that side and the moon on this side is just really gorgeous, with a little caveat that the moon is always, in every tarot you look in every tarot information book or whatever you look up, the moon is known to be unpredictable, or looked at as unpredictable. If I know what I'm on about with my astrology, I will probably I shouldn't really have that many excuses. Also, seeing as that the card of the relationship in the middle is the Knight of Swords. Slightly less pleased with this one. Then again, a Knight of Cups would have been even more complicated and like, oh gosh, no. Knight of Pentacles, not so much, because that's not going to happen. Knight of Wands, not going to happen. So here you go. That's the only card left that it will mean that we actually will have some type of an interaction, and most of it will be intellectual. Makes sense, I think. And what we used to, how we used to work and how we used to look at things and what we've been doing so far, I think we can still have quite a number of very interesting and relatively satisfying intellectual based conversations, because that's what he's good at. He loves to talk, and I love listening to what he's got to say, and sometimes interject with, comments, and it turns out that I'm better at that, better at this actual interaction verbally than I feared. So my mum didn't manage this, but I actually do. So fun, right? As long as I keep a clear head. The Knight of Swords, gotta have a clear head. I cannot go to his place when I'm on my period. I'm telling myself also, don't even think about it, because that'll be a disaster. Then when hormones are all over the place, I just cannot do it. It won't work. I will be triggerable. My belly's gonna, no way. So even though, because also, of course, the cards of the past and the present, the Strength card and the Sun card that I had, have created this rather fantastical network of expectations that now I have to live up to, whether I like it or not. So yeah, it's not completely self-evident. See my Peggy bag? I was going to do a meditation on the Icelandic compass, see whether that takes me, whether that works, whether I can, see things with that. Satisfying spread. Great cards, good to have proper warnings at the right little points and bits. And actually, I really recommend doing this in any case where, of course, not many people are in the situation where it takes them half a century to link up with their dad again. Then again, if you tweak it a bit, you might use this for any type of relationship that you're having, that you have questions about. So the other thing that happened on Friday was that I got a card that my foster mum has actually passed away. She's right there on the little altar bit over there. And I'm sad. I will not speak to her again. That's weird and interesting. I am so grateful, I can't even feel it yet, that I took this step of finding out about them and getting to talk to her. I have had at least 3 or 4 proper phone conversations with her as well. It's been over the phone because that was her MO, and she lived to be 90. I think she would have been 91 in November. So she died in end of September, and I got the card like Friday. So the card took at least a week or 10 days to get here. And I'm just so glad I took up my courage and did this thing where I kind of reestablished contact. I spoke to her daughter on the phone. She, when I'd got the card, I called her up because I know she was extremely fond of her mother and strongly connected to her. And she's having a hard time of things anyway, in all sorts of ways. And I will be thinking of her, and quite a bit. So she's married, she's got a husband, and she's got a million people around her who will also help her and support her, I know. So she's not the same type as me, in the sense that I was I just had to learn to do a lot of things completely on my own. Then again, I do have my husband as well. So, but both of us, my husband and I, have a tendency to kind of worry about our own things by ourselves and, mope in our own brains, and then it takes a bit of talking and discussion and all that for things to clear out, to clear the air again. And that's something that we really need to keep paying attention to, because life is so busy, and life, it just gets overwhelming at times. So the other thing that I wanted to show you is I have a few pretty crystals. This is part of my crystal haul. This is actually, I'm not completely sure of the English name, but we call it Avalonite. So it's a chalcedony, and it was a whole bowl full of these, and I'm a fan of chalcedony. Some types, bluer and purpler ones are the ones that I tended to use so far. This is a slightly less emotional stone than a purple chalcedony that I've used in the past. That's really gorgeous as well. It's also quite a bit more translucent. I don't know if you can see that it's actually rather clear. And the funny thing is also that it does have like a teeny tiny, there's a hole in there, and it has like a teeny tiny pebble of chalcedony stuck in there. So this was the stone that was supposed to take, obviously, that I could feel connected to me best. I was at the crystal shop Saturday and completely exhausted, what with all the emotions and all the things. And the guy at the shop actually said to me, you have to chill down. You have to stop doing things. You have to, sit and do nothing. And I felt like, yeah, that's a really great idea, except I still got to do 150 kilometers driving now. I haven't had any tea. And what do you want to do about it? He was right. And I really need to also take, some time to let it all sit and sort of get back down to the planet. And it's already happened, what with our walk in the forest yesterday with husband, and him telling me things about how he felt about things, and my telling my story, and so on. So I've got this cute little bag that I bought at the shop. There's a cord attached like so. It doesn't really look like much, but I can wear it around my neck like that and have all these beautiful little stones on my heart area. Apart from the chalcedony, I have this little guy, which is also kind of tiny bit blue on one side. I hope you can kind of make that out. It's actually a quartz that contains infinitesimal amounts of blue tourmaline, and it's more about discipline and quiet. So this is really a quiet stone, whereas the Avalonite, whatever way you say that, is also about processing the negative parts and acceptance, and so it's more emotional. The tourmaline quartz is more about, keeping the things structured a bit. I bought this little guy, which you won't be able to make out, I'm afraid. Let me see whether I can show you any color. It's actually a sapphire. Put it up like this, whether maybe you can see some of that. That has a bit of an angle. Down at the bottom of the stone, can you see there's like two lines coming together? That's the angle of the crystal. And sapphire is gorgeous, and it links to my painting that I'm working on, that I will get back to probably this week when everything's kind of simmered down a bit. No expectations, no requirements, none of it. And the last thing that goes in the bag are these three little guys that I won't be able to show you any other way than maybe like so, like that. They're 3 different color wild pearls that I just paid €1.90 for, so that's maybe $2 each. They're gorgeous, and they're so... Pearls are amazing. I've got a pearl pendant somewhere in my stuff here, probably in my witchy bag, that's that I've worn also to great effect. There's a gentleness and a purity to pearls that I can really recommend to anybody. So what I did, because the pearl and the chalcedony are softer minerals, is I fiddled together a little silk bag like so, in which I put these, like that, and then that goes in the pendant bag, and the tourmaline quartz that has got harsher edges goes next to that, so beside the silk bag, right? Because I don't want scratches on my pearls, though, or any of it. So yeah, so there you go. I have lots of intel about how our family, where we come from. Turns out that my great-grandfather that I visited the grave of 2 years ago next to Amsterdam, he wasn't a diamond cutter. He came from a circus type background, but he wasn't a diamond cutter at all. He was a diamond trader. They were rich people. They owned homes all over Amsterdam, central. So in today's price ranges, that would have been astronomical. And it's gone because the Nazis. So we sort of commiserated, my dad and I, over that. We don't really, it's not like we care about the money, but life would have been really different if, any of that. Of course, my mum, having had all her sorrow and her business and nobody listening to her ever, always looked down on this type of thing as not being spiritual. I'm not going to fall into that trap with my dad. 36 in a minute. So 37. 1, 2, 3, 37 minutes. I'm going to leave you for this. I had loads of fun finding bolitas, so there's always that. I had loads of fun baking cookies. I'm going to have me some right now. And spicy cookies with lots of aniseed and cinnamon and all that good stuff. See you next time, guys. Thank you so much for watching all this. And I hope maybe you can work the cards, See you soon. Ciao.